Hey Brittany, okay, so here is your past life spread. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at where you were, what you did with the majority of your time, boop, an important day, the feelings involved, and the relationship involved and the feelings involved, and then another important day down here. And excuse my voice, I'm like a little congested here, so just bear with me. And also excuse the cat, that's why this pillow is here, because this cat wants to, golly, ugh, stop, okay. Anyway, then we go to the death and lesson learned, and we'll get hints of time throughout, okay? So, what I'm going to do is just relay to you the images and impressions that are coming through. And your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can based off of what comes through here in your current life, and I'll try to help however I can, okay? So just keep in mind there are direct connections and opposite connections, and I will show you what I mean. I think when we go through this, I'm sure they'll crop up or whatever. So, all right, let's start. So here is where we're going. This card is the nomad card. And what that usually means is either this place doesn't exist anymore as we know it, or this aspect that we're looking at was a wanderer or moved around a lot. So immediately when I'm shuffling these cards and putting them down, what image comes up for that was this, like this hill, not a tall hill, like a hill, like hills, with these flowers, like daffodils, like these yellow flowers just all over these hills. And it feels very European. It feels like I want to say something like Sweden. There's something like I want to say Sweden, or even like Amsterdam, where they have, it's because the tulips they have at Amsterdam is how they're showing me, but it feels Swedish. So, okay, so we have this thing with Swedish. Now this aspect of you feels female. So we're looking at another female aspect, and we don't always get that. Sometimes we get male, female, whatever. We can be whatever. So for example, how you might connect could be simply, if you've ever been pulled towards Sweden, Swedish culture, food, music, literature, the vibe, the aesthetic. If you've seen photos of Sweden and you felt emotionally triggered, or it's like, I want to go there, I need to vacation there, I need to visit there, that kind of thing. See, there's the cat. Okay, so that would be a kind of connection. Hold on, then there's this. Now, the other connection, what feels strongly is this, when I'm seeing the fields of flowers, there's something about that. So there's this sense of freedom. There's this sense of a horizon and going beyond the horizon. The sense of like wanting to journey is what it feels like, this aspect. So it also feels like this aspect is very like restricted in the sense of like, the role of a dutiful daughter is what it feels like. It feels like they're plopping me down where she's looking out at these hills and in the distance or whatever, and she feels to be about mid-teens is what it feels like. So she's still very much, it feels like, in the daughter role, the dutiful daughter role. So there's this theme of independence, freedom, loyalty, duty. Okay. So how you might connect with this, for example, could be, this could be coming up as a message for you to remember that you are now born into a time where there are a lot less restrictions on women as far as their roles in the family, right? So a lot of us are born into more patriarchal families where we do have to be the dutiful daughter, and we do have to behave a certain way or react a certain way even, pursue a certain path of career, or even like, you know, a lot of people getting married, having kids because their family, their grandparents want them to have kids, that kind of thing. So really we're looking at the deprogramming, really, is what we're getting at, is you transitioning away from a traditional path into a path where you are deprogramming from all these belief systems that were planted in you that might not speak to your heart. So if you find right now that you are yearning for freedom or independence in some way, this is a message for you to move forward as best you can with that, and to disengage from any toxic environments or people that are holding you back or making you feel restricted or making you feel like you can't express yourself in ways that you want to express yourself. If you're finding that you want to express yourself in ways, and this doesn't have to be verbal, but a lot of times it is. It can be sexual. It could just be who you are. You want to express yourself finally, you know, like you're feeling more comfortable in your skin and you want to go for it kind of thing. this is a message for you to move forward with that. And it's hard because a lot of times to disengage from our patterns and the environment we're in, it usually means saying goodbye to people we've known our whole lives who might not be bad people, but they're just not working with our frequency, not aligned with us, right? So if you're finding that if anyone comes to mind when I am talking about a toxic person or people in an environment where you feel like if I were not, or you feel like when I'm with them, I feel like I can't be myself. If someone or many people or a couple of people, whoever, if someone's coming to mind, this is about them. This is telling you that if someone comes to mind when I say that, it's time to disengage. It's time to remove from their toxic energy. So that doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean you won't even miss them. But it does mean that if you want to see the growth that you're after, you're going to have to create space, clear your environment of the toxic people and the toxic circumstances, you could say, in order to create space to let the love in, to let the progress in, to let the enlightenment in, to allow others, people who are in your tribe, to find you. Because there are people who are toxic who are taking up that space, and you're not giving room for your tribe to find you, the people who speak your language. So just make sure that you keep yourself clear and open and your eyes open for these people who are aligned with you, because I feel like there will be more people coming into your life that are aligned with you, that are going to help you move forward in some way. And it feels like the way forward, it's almost like it feels like there are places you need to go. If you're feeling like you've been pulled to a geographical location in this world, it's time to put together plans to go. It's time to stop talking about it and start to actually plan it. It might be hard. Let's say it's a money issue. Let's say it's a job issue. You have a job you can't get away from, or it's too expensive, whatever it is. Put it out there. Start planning. Once you start planning, what you're doing is you are beginning the manifestation process. And that's what you want to do. You want to manifest what you want to happen. So begin the process by at least writing it down. I tell everybody, write it down. Whatever experiences you have, or if you want something, write it down, because what you're doing is you're telling the universe, hey, I'm meeting you halfway. Now help me out. You're saying, I'm taking myself seriously. I'm taking you seriously. I know that you're going to work with me, universe, guides, whatever you want to call it. So here we go. Let's do this together, kind of thing. And I feel like there is something about that too, about if you find that you have a hard time letting go of controlling situations in your life, I feel like there's something about you learning to let go and trust. And there's something in this trust. It's like there's a level of trust that you are on the cusp of. And once you let go of that, then it's going to happen. It's going to unfold. There's something there. So I'm just throwing that in there because that's what it feels like. So again, I feel like they're showing me this flower hill thing because of the feeling of looking out into the horizon, knowing that there are places to go, places to see, things to do, people to meet, adventures awaiting, and yet being stuck, not going because of being a people pleaser, being the dutiful daughter, that kind of thing. So really what we're talking about is making sure that you redefine your role. So even though you might be a daughter, or you might be a sister, or you might be a best friend, or you might be this or that, these are all labels. And these labels tend to take on definitions, and then they cloak us in a certain kind of essence. And we tend to live in the essence of these even beyond the time that they serve us. Does that make sense? So it's like dutiful daughter. Yeah, I mean, you'll always be a daughter. Everyone's going to be a daughter or a son because they were born to parents, right? But it doesn't mean you have to play into the game, play into the role of the daughter. You can be a daughter, but don't let that override who you are on a soul level. Let that expression out, okay? So there's this. So let's go to what you do with the majority of your time. So this is a laborer card. A lot of times we get this card when it's like a laborer, like a construction worker kind of labor, we got in slaves building, things in ancient times, like all kinds of work, like hands-on work. And in this case, again, we're coming to the dutiful daughter, domesticated work, household work, cooking, cleaning, sewing. Even there's something about a farmstead and milking cows, and there's something about this kind of labor, domesticated labor. Okay, so this is where the direct and opposite connections come in, where I was talking about before. Okay, so the direct connection would be if you find in your life that you are still playing out this role of a domesticated laborer, like a domestic, like the wife role, the girlfriend role, the daughter role, and you're doing all these things that are correct by society standards of what a daughter or a sister or a wife or whatever is. That would be a direct connection if you find that you're in this spot right now in your life currently as well, because it's happening here. So it would feel very comfortable for you as well. That would be a message for you if this is the case. It's time to step out of your comfort zone. You've got to step away from comfortable, familiar environments once in a while. It doesn't have to be traumatizing. It doesn't have to be huge. I'm not saying like move across the country, blah, 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 unless you really want to, and that's kind of cool too. But what it is saying is take a step away from what you normally do in this role. So for example, where you would normally say yes to someone, say no. You know what I mean? Just things like that. Where you would normally be taking care of someone, go ahead and take a class for yourself instead. It's about like understanding that everyone has their own individual journeys, and you might be a helper and you might be someone that wants to help people and be there for people. But this journey, this lifetime is not about that for you. You've already done the hard work. So in that sense, we're looking at the opposite connection, where if you have this yearning to strike out and be independent and follow your own path and pursue maybe even the black sheep of the family kind of deal, right? So if that is what it feels like, this would be the time to actually do it, because in this life your aspect couldn't. It was based on the time. Speaking of the time, what it feels like is we are looking at a time when it's kind of like, okay, so what they're showing me is, if you've ever heard of the American Girl Company, okay, so if you go look it up, it'll help, because there is, what they do is they use my library of information and stuff and experience from my life to let me know what to bring through. So what they're giving me is the American Girl Company. There is one of the original American Girls was called Kirsten, and I think she actually was Swede, which is really funny. Okay, so Kirsten's story during that time, go find it. This feels like it's her time period, and I think it's the 20th century, but early. So just check it out and see, because that would align with the time that we're talking about here, the aesthetic, the clothing, everything like that. Which, by the way, when you look up that time, if you've ever been drawn to that time period in history, that would be another connection, right? So we get a lot of people, let's say, we get a lot of people who are into World War II. It's because a lot of them were either in the army and they fought, or they were in the Holocaust, or they were they were part of it, basically. So if you feel pulled to that era in time, the dress attire, how people behave, the culture, the music, whatever it is, if you've ever been pulled towards that, that would be a connection. And if not, if you don't make connections with anything coming up, like if some things yes, some things no, that's okay. Just take it with a grain of salt, because it has to resonate with you. It has to resonate with you. So anything that doesn't connect right now, you're going to want to just tuck in the back of your mind, because a lot of times things come up later on, months, year later, something's going to happen. You might be like, oh, okay, this is that kind of thing. So just tuck in the back of your mind if it doesn't work, and take what works for you now. All right, so we're going to go to the first important day. So here we have the graduation card. This does not always mean academic. This can mean a graduation, an evolution, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, just a graduation in general, moving on up, right? So here we have the soul group card. There's that. And then the feelings we have is grateful. Okay. So it's really interesting. What we have here, what it feels like is an addition to your daily routine. And what it feels like is we're welcoming a sister to the family. So it feels like your little sister is born, and this person is your soulmate, for lack of better words, like best friends. It's not like this. You're not fighting with your sibling here. You are loving your sibling. You're showing her the ropes. She's your little doll. You bring her around. You take care of her. It's almost like you raise her. I want to say, because your parents feel like they are somewhat a little emotionally reserved, based on, it feels like, just based on being like people who just want to get the tasks done and move through life. I'm not saying they don't love you, but it feels like In here, it feels more very pragmatic, like a pragmatic family, which I feel like also has to do with you expressing yourself in this life, because this did not allow for emotional expression. So if you find that either one, the direct connection would be that you've been reserved and you put up a wall, and it takes a lot for you to really open up and express yourself for who you truly are around people, but once you do, it's like, blah, this is me, and that's great. Or two, you might find that you came into this life where you're just like raw emotion, and you're just like, I love you, or I'm sad, or I'm angry, and this is, wearing your heart on your sleeve, essentially. If you're someone that wears your heart on your sleeve, it's because this person couldn't. So that would be an opposite connection, where you're like, I couldn't do it here, I'm coming back to be emotional. You know what I mean? So keep that in mind. Now, this can also, what it feels like is this person. You know this person in this life. There's a strong bond. This is someone you come back with almost every time in some form. Not necessarily family. When I say family, I mean blood family, because in case you haven't found yet, you can make closer ties with, non-family, or like non-blood family than blood family, but which I feel like actually is just coming through just as a reminder or a message for you to keep in mind that blood is not thicker than water, and to move forward with the bonds that you create with people who are not your family, the ones that feel in most alignment with you, okay? If that makes sense. To keep moving forward with that, and don't regress. Don't allow people back into your life that have been toxic, that you've kicked out. There's a difference between forgiveness and then just being dumb. You know what I mean? Like forgiveness and then being dumb. Like they're not right for you. They don't align with you. Just because you are in touch with someone, let's say after a long time, let's say you get in touch with them again, don't look at it like it's a sign and I should allow him or her back into my life because they've changed. And no, this does not feel like this. This feels like, make sure that you remember why you've cut certain people out. And if you haven't already, and you do take away the toxic people, that's done. Don't let them back in. You've done well. Keep moving forward. You can love them. You can love these toxic people. Doesn't mean you have to have them in your energy field, if that makes sense, right? So keep that in mind. But this person is going to feel like a sister to you. This person is going to feel like home. This person's going to feel like home. So if you found that person, if someone comes to mind, that's them. If no one comes to mind, they're coming. This is someone in your life. So the feelings are gratitude, and you're so grateful because this person took away the mundaneness of your life, because you can't go out to the horizon. You can't seek adventure in this life here. So this person brings the adventure to you in the form of themselves, in the form of a whole human being that loves you and wants to run across the fields with you and help you with your chores, and admires you and looks up to you, and you love this. You know what I mean? No ego involved. It's a very loving relationship, and this is where the graduation comes in, because this loving relationship expands you in ways that you really probably couldn't articulate here in this time, but currently in your current life, how you would articulate it is, I met this person and they brought my vibration up with the love that we have for each other. That's what it feels like. It could be a romantic partner. Doesn't have to be. It could be a best friend. Doesn't have to be. You will know. You'll know. But that's what gratitude itself too. Don't forget. Gratitude, the frequency of grace and gratitude is right up there with love. It's right up there. It's very, very high. So this also pops up as a reminder for you to, I want to say, it feels like a message of every day, think before you go to bed, think of the things you're grateful for, even if you just list one thing in your head, like, I'm so grateful I have a bed to sleep in. I'm so grateful I have 2 working hands, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? So the more you focus on the gratitude, the more you're going to raise your vibration, the more you're going to move forward, the more things will clear out, the more confidence you'll have in making the decision to follow your intuition when it comes to certain decisions, you know what I mean? Turning to the internal of who you are, your own GPS system, rather than relying on the external for answers or resources. So keep that in mind. The state of grace, the soulmate person right here, and it doesn't feel like super karmic, it just feels like love. And then the evolution of your soul right here. So keep that in mind, because this also feels like it could be mirroring you now. Like, again, the message of knowing that other people can help you along your path. You don't have to do this alone. So don't do it alone if you don't have to. Keep that in mind. Keep making connections where you can when it comes to this. We're going to go to the next important day. Here we have the marriage card. Here we have the soulmate card. And here we have the pride card. Okay. So it feels like the marriage that we are looking at is interesting. Just hold on one sec. I'm feeling this out because there's a little bit back and forth. Okay, so it's really interesting. Okay, so this marriage card, it's not your marriage. It's not your marriage. It's your sister's marriage. It feels like you are giving your sister away, in the sense like you are doing things like you're putting a wedding together, you're putting flowers together, and you're fixing her dress, you're making her dress. There's something about encircling her head with a wreath. There's a wreath crown of some kind placed on the head. These are all details that I would like for you to Google based on the time period I gave you and the region, to see if this is something they do in their ceremonies, because it's very distinct. There is something about a wreath circlet on the head for this girl. And so you are basically planning and creating this most beautiful, beautiful wedding for your sister. There's something about this aspect of you that is almost like a feeling of spinsterishness, and I can't tell if it's because the look of you here seems very plain, almost a dour look. So in your current life, you could be someone who cares a lot about your looks, and it could be because, if that's the case, it's not shallow or anything. It's just you're human. So if you are big on your looks, if that's been a thing in your life, your image, it could very well come from here, where you weren't able to capture a beau. Do you know what I mean? Like, get a guy, get a man. Like, there was something about you that was just almost like, there's something about you that's just wants, it's like you're living a solitary life. You're at home, you take care of the household, and you take care of your parents who get older, and you take care of them as they get older, and your sister gets married, and there's something about this. So in your current life, it could be very much this life too, where if it's the image thing, there's the image thing, and if not, that's fine. It could also be the idea of being in a relationship. So if you've been someone who needs to be in a relationship, or you need to feel loved or desired by a partner, whoever, man, woman, whatever, if that has been very important to you and you don't know why it's so important, like to have a boyfriend or girlfriend, or to have someone desire you or love you or find you beautiful or pretty or attractive or whatever it is, that kind of thing, if that is a theme in your life and you don't know why, it comes from here, from the feeling of not being good enough to have a family, essentially, to experience that part of life. So if romantic relationships in this life has been a big theme for you, a focus, this would make sense from here. It'd be the opposite, where you're like, okay, I'm coming back to do that, if that makes sense. Now, the direct connection would be if you're in this life and you're like, I don't care, I don't need anyone, it is modern times and women don't need to be in a blah 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 blah. If you're like that, that would come from here too. You see what I mean? So you can make direct and opposite connections, but really you're looking at a theme of romance and your need, your degree of need for it, your degree of need to be validated, to be found attractive, to whatever it is, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind, because once you know about these things and where they come from, then it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then you learn, I don't need to focus on this. It's done. Like, we're good. Like, you know what I mean? That's the kind of thing, that's what these are good for. It's like where you're focusing in your life might not be the best place to focus. You don't know why you're focused on it and you don't know how to get out of it. But once you learn where it's from, then you're like, oh, it's pointless to focus on that. Let's focus over here. You have other things to focus on, you know? So the soulmate is funny, because the soulmate is knowing your sister has met a great match and seeing how beautiful that is and living vicariously through her. So if you are someone who lives vicariously through your friends or family or whatever, if you're someone you just find that you get absorbed in people's activities or lives, so to speak, almost like where you can experience it that way, if that makes sense. It's kind of odd. I've never really had that come through where I'm articulating it maybe as correctly as I should, but that kind of thing comes from here. This also makes it so that if you are a people watcher, if you're an observer, if you're someone who's, I guess what they call behind the camera, you know, that kind of person, like a behind the scenes kind of person, this would make sense too. No, cat, no, cat, no. I'm telling you, this cat is crazy. So keep that in mind. Now, the soulmate also pertains to her being your soulmate. So again, you are living vicariously through her, experiencing the joys of finding a soulmate through her, in a sense, in the as much as you can, so to speak. Because her getting married, it doesn't take you guys away from each other. Instead, you experience the joys that she experiences by observing and watching, but at the same time, what's coming through is this message to you now to make sure that you are not disengaging from life, making sure you are not just observing. This is a life where you need to be immersed in it. You need to feel your feelings, even if they're painful, because they'll teach you something. So make sure you don't drop out, whatever that means to you. Don't drop out of the moment, of the present moment, of the activity, of the friendship, of whatever it is. Don't drop out of it. Be present. Be there. Even if it's uncomfortable. I feel like it's very important for you to learn to be there. Even if it's uncomfortable. It doesn't mean it's toxic if it's uncomfortable. That's not the same thing. It's easy to mistake it, uncomfortability, for toxicity. It's not the same thing. And this is a great opportunity when these circumstances arise in your life, a great opportunity for you to learn how to discern the very subtle differences between things like uncomfortableness and toxicity. You see what I mean? So it is subtle, and sometimes it's very hard to learn. But once you start to get used to pinpointing, using your intuition in your body, like that GPS navigation system you have inside of you, once you learn the discernment, then you'll be able to just move through life. You'll be like, oh, this is good for me, this is not good, I should keep, stick with this, I'm going to learn something good here, I should move away from this, it's toxic, you see? So keep that in mind. Now, the pride card comes in just simply for how proud you are of your sister. There's immense amounts of love. This aspect of you, which means you yourself, very loving, almost like I want to say there is a sisterly aspect to you where you like to build women up. You like to empower women. You want to see women be happy. So if you're a feminist in this life, that would make a lot of sense. It's all about women empowerment. If anything, actually, what it feels like, if you've ever wanted to start a business, let's say, maybe you have, I don't know, but like if you wanted to start a business, it would be something special to make it a women-owned, women-run business, or a business having to do with helping women. It could be domestic abuse, helping women go through that, come out of it. It could be even like matchmaking. It could be whatever it is, it's helping women. So keep that in mind if you're looking for a new hobby or a new career path or a new interest. You might love the idea of doing something that helps the sisterhood, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind. Now, the death card here, and keep making connections where you can, of course. So the death card here is accident. And I'm trying to see what's going on here. So you're sitting outside. So they're showing me sitting. You're sitting. There's something about in the barn. It's like you're sitting in a barn. It's daytime. What's happening here? There's something you're doing with your hands. There's a task. Just bear with me. I'm trying to see what they're showing me. Okay. So what it feels like is, it feels like you are in the barn and there is something like it's like, this is weird. I've never gotten this. So it's like you're milking a cow, right? So you're milking a cow. And it feels like the milk got contaminated. And I don't know how that would happen. It almost like the contamination, it's either that there was a bug that got in it that had something of the bug was infectious or a bacteria got in it, or it was out too long, like it was like left out too long, and it was consumed, and there's something in it. Hold on. Something about that. So there's ingestion. So there was an ingestion of the milk. It feels like people got sick. Like, it's almost like people got sick, but you got sick and you didn't handle it. Almost like a immunity, like your immune system was low. Because there's something else about this. It's like that plus something. So it's this sour milk. So it's like almost like sour milk. It's almost like this happened and then you got sick and it wouldn't let up. And there's something like your body couldn't fight a bacteria in the body. So it feels like the fatigue and then the sweat. A lot of sweat, a lot of fatigue. And then passing away in sleep from it. So it's not like it was very painful, but it was very tiring, exhausting, and there was something about cramping in the stomach. So how you can connect with this would be if you have stomach issues, digestion issues, if you're lactose intolerant, if you need to stay away from dairy products, if your body is bothering you and you don't know why, go get tested about being sensitive to dairy. And also, when I started this, I had something with my teeth happen. So if you have mouth issues, I feel like it would come from this as well. And how that relates would be because the consuming the milk, it went through your mouth, down your throat, to your digestive, right? So a lot of times our bodies our souls come into the bodies, and our bodies, they carry the residue of these instances. So anything affected by that milk, anything like your mouth, throat, digestive system, all the things I'm naming, that would make a lot of sense. So again, stomach problems, digestion, dairy, just check into that, and mouth issues. And if not, great. I don't want anything to I don't want you to have to deal with anything. So, and you might not, and that's great. It's just, if you happen to have any of these things, it's very likely it comes from here. Also, we are looking at chronic fatigueness. So if you are tired a lot and you don't know why, as well as if you are someone that breaks out in a sweat when there is fear, or like something not good happening. It's not just fear. It's not like, oh, I'm scared, I'm sweating. It's like something wrong is happening, or it could be confrontation, it could be whatever. But if you're someone that just sweats very easily, that could be a connection, as well as the chronic fatigue. So just keep that in mind. I know it's a lot, but if none of that is there, awesome, great. So now we're coming to the lesson. So this is the Enlightenment card. Okay? So the Enlightenment card, I feel, is actually more connected to your current life, because what they're doing is they're showing you this life here where you leveled up. You leveled up in your evolution. You leveled up in so many ways, and you had so much love, and there was enlightenment in a sense here, but you couldn't fully take it and run with it because of the time period, because of your role as the dutiful daughter, right? Because of certain things here. Also needing to stay and now take care of your sister and wanting to see her happy, kind of compromising your happiness in a way, kind of living smaller so she can live larger, if that makes sense. So in that way, there's a message to make sure you're not compromising things for yourself, making sure that you give to yourself love, and all of your needs and wants are met first before you give to others. Because heck, if you do that without loving yourself and you just give, you're going to start resenting things. You don't want to do that. But it feels like this card is for this life, because now you're in a time where you are free and independent, and you can make choices, and you can find love, and you're lovable, and you're desirable, and it's time for you to fully own it, fully express it, fully pursue it. This card is the card of pursuing enlightenment. Here, it just kind of happened, like it does for most people. When you go through life, you learn things, and you grow, and you become more aware. This is an intentional, conscious decision to pursue enlightenment, self-enlightenment, as much as you want. This is a life of independence. This is a life of freedom and pursuing. So this is the message they have for you. But keep making connections with this card, the card of enlightenment, in whatever way you can, okay? So anyway, there is your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections here. And thanks for letting me read you.